Jai Nam Chan Sam Mai Gasan Gambol Hai Yan Sen Kagin Andru Pinye Man Jung Sundrai Urdu Kandram Mante Por Jin Jin Jen So Da De Fi Jin Jen Lak Jen Sek Su So Uru Pema Din Jin Hong Nam Chan San Pa Mai Ge San Ram Po Lai Yan Sen Dru Pinye Pa Mai Jung Ne Shi Sun Drai Urdu Kandram Mampe Horn Jin Jin Jen So Da De Jing Jen Lak Jen Sek Su So Guru Pema Jin Hong Chan San Pa Mai Gesa Ai Yan Sen Kagin Andru Pinye Pa Mai Jung Shi Sun Drai Kurdu Kandram Mampe Kor Jin Jin Jen So Da De Hi Jin Jen Lak Jen Sek Su So Guru Pema Din Jin Hong San Jen Cho Dan Sun Chi Cho Nang Lan Jan Cho Chab Sun Chi Dai Gi Jing So Nan Chi Dru La Ping Jin San Jen Dru Pa So San Jen Cho Dan Sun Chi Jan Cho Ba Do Da Ni Chab Su Chi Dai Gi Jing So Lula Penja Sanja Drupa So Sanja Chandan Sanchi Chanang La Janchu Dani Chavisun Chi Dagi Son Ji Pe Son Nan Chi Drula Penje Sanje Drupa So Oha Hong Belzara Guru Pema Siji Hong 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 Sara Guru Pema Siji Hong Oha Hong Belzara Guru Pema Siji Hong Oha Hong Belzara Guru Pema Siji Hong Om Ha Om Benzara Guru Pema Siddhihom. 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 Guru Pema Siddhihom. Om Ha Om Benzara 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 Pema Siddhihom. Om Ha Om Benzara Guru Pema Siddhihom. Om Ha Om Benzara Guru Pema Siddhihom. Om Ha Om Benzara Guru Pema Siddhihom. Ga te Paraga Parasamgate Sohaga Gate Paragate Parasangate Punjin Sohaga Gate Paragate Parasangate Jin Sohaga Gate Paragate Parasan Bunjin Sohaga Gate Paragate Parasangate Punjin Sohaga Gate Paragate Parasangate Bunjin Sohaga Antem para gatem para sangha tem bundi sohaga gatem para gatem para sangha Gatem Bom dia.
Good morning.
Hoje a gente está fazendo uma outra experiência com o som. Então a gente
Today we're doing a different experience with this sound system, so we need your feedback. Is it okay, the sound? Yeah, it's great. It's very good.
ouviu bem. Hoje tomou
I don't know if that's because you had a good night's sleep and or if everybody agrees that the sound is good.
hoje está um técnico aqui. Enfim, um técnico.
Today there's a technician here.
Obrigado. Viu? Então, a gente vai começar hoje.
So today we're gonna begin with the teaching. Today we're gonna examine the John Rinpoche's text, Light of Primordial Wisdom. But
Alguns comentários sempre.
before that, I'd like to make some comments. So shamatha, like other aspects of the path, it's important that we understand that we know how to do things. We just need to improve, to locate these things and to be able to do this practice in a way that is deliberate and clear. If, for example, we look how the animals hunt and how human beings hunt, well, we don't remember anymore what it's like to hunt because it's been a while, but the crucial point is being still, immobile. So I have seen some time ago some activities. I've observed how they do it. So even human beings, hunters, they go to a forest. Even if they are making noise, this is not a problem. They prepare a platform over a tree and then they build it, they make a noise, and then all the animals run away. So this is not a good method of hunting. But actually it is because they prepare the place for meditation. They leave it there, still, this platform. And then the second stage is that they are over there completely still. And then it's almost cruel. They have a lot of advantage over the animals because they are completely still. And the animals will start to move around within their worlds, and then they are seen. It's inevitable. So, for example, if the hunter is there, he has to be alert. If something shows up, he cannot move. If he moves, the animals will hear and they will run away. So he has to be completely still. If eventually there is a mosquito, for example, it's better to do nothing. So practicing in nature, it's a perfect place because you don't have nothing to protect you. People from Rio de Janeiro come to the south to be hot. Imagine what they do in Rio de Janeiro. They have to put a ventilator in front of them and behind. And then all the animals will run away because there's a lot of movement. This is a carioca. This is a gaúcho carioca. She doesn't even move. So this is the skill, but everybody can do it. Everybody knows how to do it. So, for example, we see that something is moving on the side of our eye, but we don't move.
O ser que nós estamos caçando é a própria imobilidade.
So, and the being that we are hunting is immobility, stillness.
Então nós terminamos focando a própria imobilidade.
So we end up focusing on the very immobility, on the very stillness.
Não é que as coisas não surjam, elas surgem, mas nós
It's not that things do not arise. They do arise, but we don't give any sequence to them. If we look at things and then we start reverberating and creating images mentally, then we're going to have a lot of problems.
não pode dormir também.
We can't sleep also. If we sleep, the animal we're hunting will jump upon us.
Aí, por exemplo, vamos supor que a gente esteja
And then, for example, let's suppose that we're a little bit tense, and then we let go of the tension. We don't have to be tense. Let's suppose we're a little bit inclined towards the front, then we just organize our body again.
a gente vai terminar encontrando a posição mais favorável.
And then in the end, we'll find the most favorable position. Any tense muscle will inevitably complain at some point.
Nesse ponto, a gente pode aperfeiçoar contemplando
Here,
os vários lungas.
we can improve, contemplate the lungs.
A estabilidade e a firmeza corresponde ao elemento
We
terra.
and firmness that correspond to the earth element.
Mas se tiver firmeza demais, tem tensão.
But if there is too much firmness, then we have tension. And then comes the water element that lets go of the tension, liberates the tension.
Aí tem o elemento ar.
Then there's the air element, which is an element that pervades the whole body.
O elemento fogo que mantém o calor e a energia do
The
corpo.
fire element that maintains the warmth and energy of the body.
O elemento éter que corresponde ao
The
brilho,
ether element that corresponds to this
a vivacidade
eye, this glow that we have in the eye, which is the vivacity of mind. Mind is alive, vivid.
o elemento espaço que
The space element that recognizes
como uma condição
this practice as a particular condition
de ambiente ilimitado de possibilidades.
within a limited environment, an environment that is limited in terms of possibilities.
O controle de qualidade é nós não seguirmos
Our quality control
produzindo imagens
is that we
Respiração dependente, ou seja, tomando algo
stop
como o miado do gato,
producing,
imaginando onde está o dono.
we stop taking something as basis, for example, the cat's meow, and wondering where is his owner, where is his tutor. So we don't reverberate anything.
Através dessa prática, nós cruzamos das
By means of this practice, we break through the 8 consciousnesses towards Rigpa.
Esse é o tema do ensinamento de Judo.
And this is the subject of Dudjom Rinpoche's teachings, a teaching light of primordial wisdom that we're going to examine now.
Yatra Rinpoche, ele diz que essa prática
Yatra Rinpoche says that this practice evolves from an impure shamatha to a pure shamatha. Impure shamatha is when we have a focus that obscures our view
dos objetos, dos sentidos,
of the other sense objects.
diretamente focados em algo,
If we are directly focusing on something, everything else disappears.
alguém diz agora,
For example,
fique bem tranquilo que eu vou
if someone says, now be very calm because I'm gonna give you an injection. And then even though we're still, we forget all the environment around us,
que a
we're
pessoa
only
olha só
paying
aquilo,
attention to they're gonna put on our arm. We just focus on that, and then we don't see anything else. That is an open condition.
Diferentes coisas e ouve diferentes sons.
You're
Mas ela
seeing and listening to different things, but we're not following them. We keep focused
na energia,
in the balance, in stillness, in the energy, in the different lungs as we described them.
mas a pessoa mantém a visão aberta,
But we keep our view open,
a visão da mente.
the view of the mind, we keep it open.
A Gyatro Rinpoche diz, quando essa
Then
prática
Gyatro Rinpoche says, when this practice matures, we don't want to move from this place anymore. We feel very good in this condition.
uma vivacidade, uma luminosidade,
And a vividness, a luminosity in the mind arises in the mind. The body is stable, the energy circulates naturally.
nós poderíamos dizer que a
We could say that our health will also improve.
a energia circula no corpo,
The energy circulates in the body without being commanded by karmas, without being governed by karmas.
então lembrando o aspecto
Just to remind the aspect of the preliminary teachings, the preliminary practices, we need to remember
poderia lembrar que nós vamos progressivamente
we need to remember that we progressively understand the First Noble Truth, even though we're able to remember the words. regarding the existence of suffering, we can only understand it progressively. So it's natural that we understand a little bit, but we don't understand other parts. So the gross aspects connected to suffering, we can see them more easily.
A liberação mesmo.
The more subtle aspects will only be liberated with liberation itself. But we understand it progressively. The most important aspect is that when suffering arises, we should recognize it as suffering, as dukkha. This is the most important aspect. So for a while, we will move within suffering, choosing things without being really aware that we're doing it, without being really aware that we are within the software of samsara, operating with the three animals as a basis. But our experiences will accumulate and we can locate the different kinds of manifestations of suffering. We diagnose it and then we progressively liberate it, we progressively understand it. So shamatha practice, just like the practice of the Four Noble Truths of the Noble Path, it's a practice that we understand in a certain way, and then we refine this understanding and we go through this practice over and over again, and it becomes more and more deep with time. This is not something that we are studying, like, oh, so now I studied this book, I did this chapter, I did it, the corresponding activities and exercises, and now I can move on. Now it's ready and I can move on. We, as if it were something linear, but that's not how it works. Here, it's something circular, because while we are going through the content, we are transforming ourselves inwardly. The way we see things, how wisdom arises. And then when we finish a round, we go back to the first step, and the first step changes because our eyes are different. We have deeper eyes, so we are looking in a different way. We go
Quando a gente volta ao primeiro ponto, o primeiro ponto está mais profundo ainda.
Pass again with more profound, then we go back to the first step, and this first step is even deeper than before, and then we go on like this. We go on turning the wheel of Dharma. We have a difficulty that in the beginning we're not able to realize, to grasp, but over time we start grasping it a little bit, but we don't know how to get rid of it. Is the fact that the being that is walking the path, that is progressing on the path, this being is operating karmically, and this being itself is an obstacle. This is contradictory. It's a problem.
É como o Buda diz, eu manifestei corpo de sonho.
But it's as Buddha says, I manifested a body of dream to benefit beings of dream, immersed in sufferings of dream. I come and I'm not going. So we that are suffering, we are dream
Se não for o ser de
beings, and we're not aware of that. Because if it's not the being of dream that is doing the practice, who is doing it? So as we do the practice, this being of dream changes, its appearance changes. We don't understand it very well, but within this dream being, there is a dimension that is not a dimension of dream. It's the dimension that produces all of these oniric beings. It's something miraculous manifested in oniric body, giving oniric teachings that only make sense within this oniric world of the beings. And these oniric beings, they gradually dissolve towards the nature that produces the dream. So it's as if the oniric being that is produced by this extraordinary nature, it's as if this being were conditioned to focus on its own disappearance towards that which is incessantly present. If we progress on the path, we end up understanding it and seeing it clearly. But for a while, this is contradictory for us. So Tsao Rinpoche describes this in the Tibetan book. He says that the most extraordinary thing that can happen in our lives is the appearance of the inner guru, the inner master. The inner master is mirrored. There's a mirrored relationship with the external master. So this arisal of this inner wisdom is the most extraordinary aspect that can take place. It's beyond the illusory identities. And then the inner master says, do this practice, do that practice, and then we do the practices. Who are we? We are the illusory beings.
Rinpoche diz, e
And
nós,
so Rinpoche says that
ouvindo isso, a gente pensa,
us as illusory beings, when we listen to this, we think, I'm gonna doing it because I'm gonna be prettier, stronger, I'll gain many powers and we'll just go on. And this is a spiritual materialism because we are used with a world in which we're always enhancing this
por exemplo,
identity, which is the three animals. So the rooster is always working for
estamos fazendo
the pig. So we're always making efforts. And then the spiritual path arises as if it were something that the three animals understand. But actually what Buddha is doing is that he's mistaking the three animals. But this is presented to us as if it were an advantage. And then at a certain point, the pig itself says, well, I think we shouldn't go over this
esse aspecto, assim, né? Que é como, então, o javali, ele se sente
And then Sogyal Rinpoche describes this when the pig feels affected.
mais hábil, mais focado.
The pig is always getting more focused with his meditation abilities.
Ele desenvolver a habilidade,
He gains more money, he manager, he develops skills like love, compassion, he improves in his career, everything gets better. But at a certain point, these lines meet, and that's when spiritual materialism starts to subside. So the mind starts operating not based on the 8 consciousnesses, but it breaks through and it starts to contemplate this deep aspect as its essence, and it starts operating based on this aspect. And this mind, the 6th consciousness, when it looks to these dimensions, it recognizes that there is something that is incessant, and at the same time, there is something that is created. And the created aspects are always frustrating because something arises and then it ceases. Another thing arises and then it ceases. And when we are immersed in this ordinary aspect, the fact that things arise and disappear looks completely natural. But when we start recognizing that which is not born and doesn't cease, birth and successive birth and cessation looks like something completely meaningless and a waste of time. It looks like something artificial. So this is a point in the teaching in which there is an inflection. It's when we start to understand in a deeper way the first noble truth, which is the truth of suffering. So suffering is described at a certain point as the experience
Nossa, onde a consciência ela está focando e está se
in
movimentando.
which our consciousness is focusing and operating within artificial things without recognizing this aspect that creates things, this original aspect that is incessantly present.
De uma nuvem de
So
som.
whenever we are immersed in an oniric cloud producing successive dreams, this is the essence of the First Noble Truth, the recognition of the very suffering. This is the experience of suffering, to be imprisoned by this environment. And this is what happens to us, this is what's happening to us. So again, we understand what Buddha did. That came, he manifested an oniric body that we can recognize, we can see, and he offered teachings about how to overcome this, which is something that we cannot see immediately. This fact is very profound, and then we understand it, but we are deeply immersed in the situation. For example, as I'm here speaking, we're not hearing the sounds, we're hearing the meanings. So there is a karmic translator that takes sounds, which are just blah, 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 and transforms it into meanings. And this translator is a karmic translator that takes our karmic experience, our automatic experience to produce meanings. So even when we're listening to what Buddha presented, so we have the Buddha's words, we're reading the Buddha's words, even when we're doing it, we're using a karmic consciousness that is conditioned, otherwise I wouldn't be able to have access to the words. But we have absolutely, this is the active exercise of the conditioned consciousness producing the very teaching. We break through the verbal aspect of the teachings and the cognitive aspect of the teachings, and then we go inside the consciousness that sees, which is the Buddha's consciousness, the Buddha's awareness. This consciousness sees. The Buddha doesn't need a text. He sees directly in the appearances. So that's what we do. Here, right now, we don't really know how to do it. So Dujong Rinpoche takes this karmic connection, he produces words that have a karmic meaning for us, and then he points things to us. And the first thing that he points is shamatha. So shamatha is already a non-discursive and non-cognitive practice. So when we are in this practice and we understood it, we have practiced it, we are stable, at this point, we can see the demons, ghosts, evil spirits, we can see them because we are like this, and then memories start arising in our minds, memories, images, and these are the devils, ghosts, evil spirits, and they don't exist. They are not real, but they appear in our mind in the form of memories, images, situations, daily situations, or situations from the past or future images. They arise as karmic manifestations. we attribute meaning and we reverberate them as if they were something natural that we just remembered. Oh, now this, now that, I should do this, I should do that. So these thoughts become images of the future also come. So when I'm doing the shamatha practice, I have the opportunity of saying, wow, this manifestation is a disturbance. I'm gonna keep on with my practice. Then we're not attributing meaning or sense or any kind of weight or density to that which appears. We're not reverberating this. And then we find out that we have this very big freedom regarding the demons. We could say that demons are those that come and produce a feeling of either of fear or anger in us, and we're almost dragged by this manifestation.
Tivéssemos em condições comuns, nós seríamos
If we were in ordinary conditions, we would be dragged. But here in our meditation, what can happen? We have a notebook and we have a pen, and then we have a good idea and we write it down. Oh, I have to do a report and etc. Oh yes, I have to buy the Christmas gifts. Oh, I have to go to the dentist before the end of the year. And then we write it down. We just have good ideas. All of them are demons. And they appear. And when we attribute some kind of density to this, then we are under the influence of that. It has power over us. And then we don't go to the dentist, we don't buy gifts. Later, I'm gonna send a little card saying that I was meditating. It's not easy to recognize that they are demons. It's not easy. But these are the things that Christmas after Christmas and New Year after New Year, they catch us, they take us. When we die, we have no time anymore. We should do it before. So we discover that we have a nature that is free. And then the demons say, but are you sure you're not going to buy Christmas gifts? Okay, you can meditate, but you should buy the Christmas gifts. Well, now I'm not gonna buy them. You just shut up. So there is a natural freedom, and there are the beings. So there are the demons, ghosts, and then we're meditating, and a voice comes saying, "Do you think you're going anywhere? You are a failure. You have always been a failure." And then our brother appears saying, "You have no chance. You are horrible. You have always been horrible. Ever since you were born, you just bothered me." So these are the ghosts. And then we have many of these ghosts. Oh, I'm a sailor. And there are all kinds of ghosts. They arise. They are very visible because if I'm still meditating, they are precisely that which comes and drags my thought, as if that was something crucial, as if I had to follow that. And then there are these evil spirits. Oh, you think you are something. You look like the Buddha, huh? I am the Buddha here in the world solving problems. Generally, they are all from the same family. They come from our family. So the demons, ghosts, and evil spirits, they're nothing else but creations of the mind. Oh, that's incredible. And then we go back to this place that is free, and we understand the First Noble Truth better, the suffering better. This is suffering, to be dragged by things all the time. And well, this year we're not doing this practice, but there is the practice in which we only eat and drink water once a day.
Lama não tá.
And when we do it, our demons show up. Oh, Lama is not seeing, I'm gonna eat. I'm going to drink water. Oh, drinking water causes no problem. And then we have an inner sensation. So we encounter the demons. If there's any demon there, show up. And then we practice day and night. And the demons will show up. How? They manifest as that which propels us very strongly. Like, you have to do this, you have to do that, you have to eat, you have to take rest. What you're doing is crazy. Not eating, just meditating, you're gonna go crazy. So there is this kind of practice, which is a practice that we don't have to do. But the Buddha encountered these people who used not to eat, and they used to have austere body practices. They were trying to intensify their practices by evoking more and more demons, as if that would bring about enlightenment. In this part we can skip it. We already have too many demons. If we have just a little bit of skill, that's okay, that's fine. Because the central point is the recognition. It's not fighting the demons. The central point is to discover this dimension that is free. To discover that all these manifestations are manifestations of the mind. So we have this stability, and then later we regard all these aspects as manifestations of the mind, and then progressively we culminate with the understanding that there is a mind that is free of characteristics. And this is, if we get to this point, we can skip and we can go on in our shamatha practice. We're now focusing the mind that is free from characteristics, because we have already realized that characteristics and appearances are artificial. So yeah, of course, sometimes some demons come back, they arise, and they look completely real. We feel them as being very real. So even for the Buddha, it wasn't easy. He was there, sitting under the Bodhi tree in Bodh Gaya, under the tree. And then Mara appears. Mara is the one who brings the impulse of movement within the conditioned world.
aparências
So
de
Mara first creates appearances of fear for the Buddha. It's as if armies arise around Buddha, all kinds of threats, rains of arrows. This part, I always think that it's some kind of a cloud of mosquitoes that uh, comes to the Buddha, and then Buddha feels that they are arrows. And then he looked at it, but he didn't move. And then the arrows turned into flowers and perfume and fell down. So all kind of disturbance that we overcome, they become an ornament. Later, Mara manifests the dancers, the female dancers. I imagine that a female practitioner, a group of very beautiful men will appear in that.
Aí o Buda deu uma olhada assim. E aí ele viu como Mara, como as filhas de Mara, ou seja,
And he
manifestações
recognized them as Mara, daughters of Mara, manifestations that evoke the karmic
essas imagens se
aspects that manifest in front of them. When he recognizes it, this image is also dissolved. And then Mara tries a little bit harder and he manifests Yasodhara, who was the wife of the princess Siddhartha, the Buddha, and she appears with the sun. And she says, "You have a horrible appearance. You're extremely skinny. You're all hurt. Go back home. Your father needs you. Your mother needs you. I need you. Your son needs you." And then Siddhartha
agora
thought,
sim.
"Oh, yeah, now I really have to go back. They found me."
Ainda bem que a Mara, isso não.
So then he realizes, oh no, this is Mara. If it were really Yasodhara, I don't know what happened, but no, that was Mara. It was an image. And then he overcomes that image. So then he goes back to this place. For us, this is a little bit disturbing because even though this is a story, the Buddha's story for us, it's a little
Não
bit.
tem quartinho no palácio?
He go one. I mean, doesn't he have a little room in the palace where he could meditate? And then he could have lunch with his family and meditate at other times. It would be better. He could take his kids to the school. But no, Siddhartha is there.
Quase morrendo.
Bites, very skinny, almost dying. Then when Mara appears, he doesn't look like Mara. Mara is the regent. He's on the top of the desire world. So he offers that which is mature within people's hearts. So people are dragged because he offers it.
iPhone 12.
For example, iPhone 12. I don't know which number it is right now. It's always changing. So iPhone 13. This is a premonitory iPhone.
Isso é Mara.
And then we're contemplating in this way. This is Mara. So we have to go back to this practice and recognize this dimension that is completely free. The mind free from characteristics. And then in the teaching, we say the mind free from characteristics is Dorje Drolo, and this is very profound. It means that, well, he's the devourer of demons. That image of Guru Rinpoche, like, if you look at Dorje Drolo, Lama is showing the image of Dorje Drolo on the panel. Dorje Drolo is the wrathful aspect of Guru Rinpoche. So whatever appearances that arise, they lose their strength. So Guru Rinpoche is the lucidity that overcomes all of these conditioned meanings. So the wrathful appearance is a result of the conditioned experience. When we contemplate the conditioned experience being overcome, it's as if the conditioned experience were regarding Guru Rinpoche as something that takes away its vital energy, that destroys it. So this description, so the vital energy is captured. The heart of the demons is destroyed. So in Tibetan Buddhism, they use this language, which is a little bit shocking. This is Dorje Drolo. I see the multiple impulses of the mind as appearances of demons, ghosts, evil spirits. And then I see the mind that is free from characteristics. This mind free from characteristics becomes itself a lucidity that I call Dorje Drolo, because this mind free from characteristics, Dorje Drolo, when it encounters appearances, the appearances dissolve. Their energy is over. So this is the beginning of the practice. In the text, Light of Primordial Wisdom. Is there a question here? There's a hand in the Zoom. Someone raised a hand. As you can ask.
Não sei se todos me ouvem bem aí no Zoom também.
I don't know if you can hear me.
Eu estava falando sobre as apresentações de Mara e a austeridade frente a...
You were talking about the manifestations
Eu entendi assim.
Mara
Então,
and about not follow. So this austerity, it doesn't take anywhere. It doesn't take to enlightenment. These austere practices. Austere practices or fighting the demons. But in my view, austerity makes practice easier. For example, if I fight the obstacle and I overcome it, then I'm benefiting from it. It's just that overcoming the obstacle in an ordinary method, usually it's a kind of transmigration. So I go from one place to another within samsara. But if I look into the obstacle and it dissolves through the recognition of reality, so this is the method. Okay, and then there's a compliment. If I don't have this ability clearly of going into the obstacle, not being dragged, when appearances and they arise and they always arise, if I enter into them, I'm gonna be dragged. There's no possibility. There's no other possibility. So in this case, in the beginning, the austerity that avoids giving sequence to this, the austerity that recognizes that if I enter into the appearances, I'm gonna have a lot of problems. This is not Orjadrolo. No, this is not Orjadrolo. This is a skill within the world, because for Orjadrolo to appear, I have to purify the appearance completely to recognize it in a perfect way as emptiness. But if I'm not able to do it, if I simply avoid reverberating, this is a skill that I have of not reverberating, of not following appearances and images. This ability can take us to some of the God realms, but for example, there's some kind of rigidity within it, which is a level of rejection. There isn't a freedom regarding the appearance, there's a rejection. And this rejection creates another realm within samsara, which will originate suffering at some point. For example, I need to go into that realm and help beings that are there, and you can't. So there's a level of a conditioned operation of the mind. The Buddha develops the ability of penetrating every word, but he's not dragged by the corresponding world. He has the ability of seeing and not being dragged. This is not an ability that has to do with rejecting things, because rejection would be an obstacle for him to enter the worlds. It's not very easy, but if we're able to reject, it's already something good. Eventually, rejection will create some kind of judgment. When we have an internal judgment, an internal rejection, we create an internal judger, an internal judge. And this internal judge will manifest also as an external judge, and this will create obstacles. Okay. So this text, it's called The Light of Primordial Wisdom, which is essentially the clarification of the primordial manifestation present in all manifestations that we would call ordinary. So there are no ordinary manifestations, all of them are primordial. But right now, at this point, I am surrounded by appearances as if they were ordinary appearances. In the beginning, it's a little bit difficult to explain this. For example, if all ordinary appearances are primordial, so what do I have to do? I just have to let go and that's it. And then you let go and then you have problems and you suffer. But how? How come? Isn't everything the primordial nature? Yeah, but you're not seeing it. Well, even though I'm not seeing it, but this is. So yeah, we have this kind of problem. So we may ask, how come there is suffering if everything is already primordial? But then we have to reveal the secret aspect. And right now, at this point, we have no idea of the profundity of this. Because the being that is listening to the teaching is a conditioned being. So they listen, but they are disturbed. They listen from within their own bubbles. So we have to take these conditioned beings and move them to a mandala. And then when they are in the mandala, they will see. But within the bubble, they will only see the bubble, which is conditioned. And then there is a subtitle, an instructional manual for the primordially pure perfection stage of the powerful and wrathful Dorjadrolo, conqueror of demons.
Então, vou falar sobre o subjugador de demônios.
Yeah, we can show it to the boys and girls and talk about the conqueror of demons. It looks like something like those Japanese stories. The wrathful Dorjadrolo, conqueror of demons. So we pay homage to the Mahaguru from the start, and the Mahaguru is the union of all the sources of refuge, which is also something completely extraordinary. Just listening to this is already extraordinary because the whole teaching is here. If I'm able to pay homage to the Mahaguru, then everything is solved. But I'm not able to do it because I cannot conceive of the Mahaguru. The expression Mahaguru is already extraordinary because we are in a world in which the word Mahaguru exists. And this is extraordinary. We could be in a world where the word love doesn't exist. For example, in the house, the word love has no meaning. If we are in the middle of having a house and we say, oh, have love and compassion, these words, they don't exist in the house. There's only aggression. For example, you are in a meeting of your executive directors of your company, and then you say, the first point of this company is love and compassion. Everybody will look at you and say, you are in the wrong place. You should go to a Buddhist temple. Here we are in reality. If you want to live with love and compassion, you can, go through the human resources and they will pay you what we owe you and then go. Here we are in a war. Okay. So depending on the place, love and compassion have no meaning. These expressions, they do not fit. So sometimes we have stolen and we have killed and then we are arrested. Then we go to the police station and talk about love and compassion. Yeah, it doesn't work because this is immersed within the world of the health. But here we're listening about the Mahaguru, and this is very extraordinary. The Mahaguru is the ultimate nature itself. So it means that it's inseparable from our mind. It's present in all beings. And there is no spiritual view that doesn't converge to this ultimate point, which is the Mahaguru. So we're focusing on the Mahaguru. So for the profound stage of perfection, in this instruction on the primordially pure, profound perfection stage of the essential life force practice of the most secret, powerful, and wrathful conqueror of demons, Dorjadrolo, there are two parts. So the profound perfection stage, primordially pure, that is a stage that has absolutely no artificiality. There's nothing that is artificially constructed.
Então, é o profundo estágio da perfeição primordialmente puro.
So it's a primordially pure, profound perfection stage of the essential life force practice. So the core of the practice
Poderoso, irado, subjugador de demônios,
of the most secret, powerful, and wrathful conqueror of demons, Dorje Drolo. So we are accessing the heart of Dorje Drolo, his life force, how he operates, how he arises. He is himself a direct manifestation of the Mahaguru. And so what are the two parts of this instruction? The first is shamatha, and the second is vipassana. So first, stabilization, and second, lucidity, lucidity of the corresponding wisdom.
Dojo Rinpoche vai dividir isso.
And then Dojo Rinpoche divides it, and he begins with item one, the preparation, preparing the ground of shamatha. The root text says, for the profound stage of perfection, towards the red syllable hum at the heart, let this prana awareness be directed. So the instructions amidst the world, the instructions regarding conditioned and artificial practices, the words can vary a little bit, but they converge. So what am I doing here? I'm practicing shamatha. So for the profound stage of perfection, which is towards the red syllable hum at the heart, let the spear of prana awareness be directed. It's not only awareness, it's not only the cognitive aspect. Here, there's not even the word cognitive. It has prana, energy. So he is already describing the most profound aspect of shamatha, which is lucidity and energy. So the Dojo Rinpoche is avoiding verbal and discursive and cognitive and logic description, because he's talking about lucidity. I don't know how we can produce lucidity, but just producing it. And energy also, we just do it by doing it. I just create them, prana, awareness, lucidity, and energy. We just do it. It's not cognitive or logic. So, towards the red syllable hum at the heart, let the spear of prana awareness be directed. So we imagine a syllable hum. It can be H-U-M. It can also be the Tibetan syllable at the heart. A red syllable hum. If you can visualize this red syllable hum at the heart, you didn't achieve anything. And then it's not like, oh, then I went to the mirror and I saw this stain, this red stain in my heart, and I achieved some kind of realization. So
Não é bem essa.
So yeah, somebody may say, no, this is not the point. So this is not a causal thing.
Se nós focamos um objeto, ao focar aquele objeto, nós não focamos outra coisa. Então a gente focou aquele objeto. Então eu estou praticando shamatha impura. Aí, essa shamatha impura, como toda e qualquer experiência, ela é uma manifestação primordial, sempre. Porque não há manifestação comum. Mas
So all experience is a primordial experience. There's no ordinary experience. Here I'm doing a primordial experience, but I think it's ordinary. I'm creating a syllable at the heart, and it looks like everything.
é isso, eu já estou praticamente iluminado.
If Dojin Rinpoche tells me to do it, then I'm almost enlightened.
Mas eu estou essencialmente praticando shamatha impura.
But I'm essentially practicing impure shamatha. So there's an object, and I'm focusing on this object. So I have a referential to identify the demons. And that's why I create the syllable. Because everything that drags me out of the realization syllable is a demon, and I recognize it. And then further on, you will understand that hum is the syllable that originates Dojolo's activity.
Ela com a manifestação.
When we look at the ordinary appearances, if we hum, ordinary appearances reveal the ultimate manifestation of reality. And this is the power of the syllable hum. And when we see the red color, we can think, and where does this red color come from? And then we see perfectly that the red color is a luminous manifestation of our mind. I have a direct...
Aparências.
The mind is able to create appearances. I see it directly. So this red syllable hum is already a manifestation of the ultimate nature. It is the hum syllable and the red color and the energy that I put there. I'm experiencing how samsara is created. I create an appearance of samsara in the form of with energy. So this is the root text. And then the Rinpoche adds a comment, and he introduces us to the subject. Sit on a comfortable seat in an isolated place.
E também sem muito ruído.
Far from the hustle and bustle of ordinary people and without too much noise. The crucial point of the body is to sit upright, completely alert, in the 7-point posture of Vairakana, which is the lotus position, with our hands like this, and like this, like Lama is showing. And then he says, The crucial point of this speech is to breathe naturally. But what about speech and breath? Well, didn't he say speech? Yet here, speech and breath, they fuse into one.
O ponto crucial com respeito à mente é estar além
The
de
crucial point of the mind is to cut through any thoughts related to the past, present, or future. So we're not immersed in an outflow. We're not
Eu
immersed
acho muito importante que quando vocês praticarem
process of dependent arising.
a dispersão da
I
mente,
think it's very important that when
seja uma
dispersing the mind is nothing but the manifestation of dependent arising. So an image creates another image that serves as basis for another image and so on. And that's it, that's all. There isn't, we need anything very serious. It's essentially a luminous construction of images.
o ponto crucial com respeito à mente é estar
So the whole point of the mind
relacionados ao
is to
passado,
cut through any thoughts related to the past, present, or future, and remain without any activity of mind,
seguir o passado,
such as following the past.
eu olho
But what is it to follow the past? So I look something anterior, and then I began to reverberate this in a sequence.
como seguir o passado. Ou
This is an activity like following the past.
nós estamos lá, bom,
And the text says,
enfim,
anticipating the future.
nós estamos assim,
There, and then we think, oh, Brazil is gonna play against Korea. Blink. We are deeply meditating about Brazil and Korea. Yes, yeah, we shouldn't do it.
a gente olhar o futuro, né?
This means that we are anticipating the future.
Atividade da mente como seguir o passado.
So remain without any activity of mind, such as following the past, anticipating the future, or analyzing anything at all.
O Camarões,
For example, if it were the teacher of
super profunda, né? Premonitória.
yeah,
Simplesmente mantenha-se sem qualquer
they
fabricação ou
get
distração.
lost in these thoughts. Simply settle without any fabrication or distraction.
Nós estamos atravessando, pessoal, as 8 consciências.
We are cutting through the 8 consciousnesses. If you are able to remain like this, that will suffice.
Eu acho importante entender isso, assim, que a gente está atravessando as 8 consciências.
I think it's important to understand that we are cutting through the 8 consciousnesses because whatever appears related to eyes, to ears, or the other senses, we don't follow them.
Por
I
exemplo,
really think we should train this.
nós estamos em silêncio e aí a gente
For example, we
liga
are
os
in
ouvidos.
silence and then we turn on our ears
A gente ouve os vários sons.
and we
A
listen
nossa prática é
to
assim
the various sounds.
mesmo na presença do
Our practice is to remain still even amidst the sounds. And then we turn on the eyes.
na presença das
And our practice is, even though we are immersed in the sights, whatever they are, we remain completely stable without reverberating them.
olhos, ouvidos, nariz,
Eyes, ears, nose,
imagens que vierem de presente
tongue,
na nossa mente,
body, and mind. Whatever images of a past, present, and future that arise in our mind, we also
vamos ampliar nossa capacidade de estabilidade.
don't create
Que a gente
any sequence. And in this way, broaden our capacity of stability because we look at them, but we we don't move, we're not affected.
Se você perceber que sua mente não consegue ficar estável assim,
If you
então,
find that it's difficult to remain still like this,
em seu
then place an object,
com tamanho aproximado,
such as a red syllable home at your heart, about an inch in size, or even bigger or smaller if necessary.
isso realmente não é o ponto, né? Então,
This is really not the point. The size of the syllable that we imagine is fine.
não foque tão
When it
intensamente.
becomes vividly clear, don't focus too tightly, but simply look at the brilliant appearance and settle naturally, in a relaxed way.
Então, sempre tem os praticantes que têm
So there are always those practitioners that want to do everything with a lot of perfection,
forçam pouco para que
and
aquilo
then they do it too tightly,
muito vivo,
too forcefully, and then they think that if they can visualize something very vividly, then they will be almost enlightened. That's not how it works. We are simply focusing to train in order to train non-distraction.
se ainda assim parecer difícil manter-se estável desse
If you
modo,
find that it's still difficult to remain still like this, then
com
place an object such as a
diretamente
either large or small directly in front of yourself and settle,
o seu olhar.
directing your gaze towards the object.
Fique paralisado,
Stare without moving your eyes and without blinking,
mas com a mente
but with the mind totally relaxed, free, and at ease.
deliberadamente não tente meditar ou
Don't deliberately try to meditate or restrict the mind
não
in any way,
analise ou
and don't analyze or evaluate states of mind in terms of good and bad.
simplesmente se mantenha relaxado. Essa é a prática.
Simply remain relaxed. This is the practice.
Ou seja, essa é uma instrução adicional. Se não funcionou a sílaba RUM,
That is, this is an additional instruction. If the syllable home doesn't work, then we try to find a dense, a tangible object.
a gente criar uma ancoragem
The objective of this is for us to have like an anchor for the mind,
objeto e com
for the mind to be hooked by this object, by this anchor, and in this way for it to gain stability.
não se permita ficar
No matter what thoughts arise, don't allow yourself to get caught up in them, which is dependent arising, and carried away.
mantendo-se sem distração
But return to the retaining an undistracted state that is clear and without thoughts.
tecido
If you find that your mind is dull, raise your gaze, make your posture more alert, invigorate your awareness, and bring out the awakened quality of Rigpa. Direct your attention one-pointedly.
Então, como é que Rigpa vai surgir, né?
So how does Rigpa arise? It arises because now, instead of looking at things with the five senses and mind, and with
Tenho é a própria mente.
that means that the object that I have is the mind itself. And now I'm looking at the mind and how mind works. And I take the mind to this state of stability and I see
Habilidade
that
não é
it's in this state of stability. So this capacity to observe whether there is or not stability, it doesn't come from the five sense organs or mind.
propriamente.
Ordinary capacity of the mind of looking at itself. And that's what we call Rigpa.
Que é,
It's an action of the mind that is Rigpa.
em contraste com o Rigpa, eu tenho Ma Rigpa.
Contrasting with Rigpa, there is Ma Rigpa. Ma Rigpa is ignorance, and Rigpa is lucidity. So what is Ma Rigpa? It's when we are immersed within an environment, acting in a conditioned way without realizing it. We're seeing objects that look external, and this is Ma Rigpa.
Externos.
But here we are interrupting anything that has to do with external objects. We interrupt all the five senses and mind, and I take an object as an anchor, but I'm not reverberating anything. And then I look inwardly to see what is this mind doing. This is Rigpa.
Eleve seu olhar e adote uma atitude.
Find that your attention is dispersed and your mind is agitated. Lower your gaze. Sorry. If you find that your mind is dull, raise your gaze, make your posture more alert, invigorate your awareness. And then direct your attention one-pointedly. How do you know that you're directing your attention one-pointedly? Rigpa sees it. If you find that your attention is dispersed and your mind is agitated, lower your gaze, make your posture more relaxed, and allow the mind to settle in a way that is perfectly natural and deeply relaxed. Sometimes we listen to the instructions and we get stuck in them.
Relaxa nessa posição.
Here we just relax in this position. And then Dujun Rinpoche starts changing the objects of focus. So first he described visual objects, and now he's describing objects of the other doors of the senses that we can use as anchors for the mind. So he says, in a similar way, you can also focus on a clear sound, a permeating scent, and so on. So this is something interesting. For example,
Nos aproximar da morte,
when we are approaching death,
olfativo pode estar preservado.
our nose may be preserved, but I'm not able to operate with other senses. But we can feel, for example, penetrating scent. So if we have already trained and we understand what it is, when we feel a permeating scent, we can look at this as an anchor for the focus of the mind. So we wake up from the ordinary dream of the mind. We wake up from the distraction of the mind in the process of death by means of a penetrating scent.
Outra forma de produzir bênçãos
There's
que
also another way of creating blessings, which is taste. So there are pills which are very bitter. For example, guanxuma. So we dry the guanxuma and then we make a little pill of guanxuma. And when someone is dying, we just give it to them. It's very, very bitter.
intenso
This is an intense sign that takes this person karmically to a focus, and then the mind gets focused. Of course, these are gross instruments,
quando a pessoa ela está sob uma de confusão, aí tu dá
and we are in a
tipo aquilo
confusion. We give something like this, and it's so intense that the mind gets focused.
não é cognitivo.
So it's focused on something that is not cognitive. So this is a resource.
prática de
It's a practice of conducting consciousness through a process that is not cognitive or discursive, but it is karmic.
agora que eu estou morrendo, você me dá isso.
So now that I'm dying, you give me this. You should give me chocolate.
Eu entendi.
Is this how much you love me? I'm going straight to the house. No, 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 that's not how it works. When we give them this bitter pill, little wow, I received the blessing. And then the person focuses their mind and it gets stabilized. And maybe with this stabilized mind, they can go back to the view of wisdom and recognizing the multiplicity of chains and heartbeats and etc. They can recognize all of this as a manifestation of samsara. And then they have a focus that is beyond all of this.
Então, é essa parte que assim, do John Rinpoche segue, né? Então,
So the Rinpoche goes on. In a similar way, you can also focus on a clear sound, a permeating sense, and so on. Or you can simply focus on the natural flow of your breath.
enfim, fizeram os retiros de Anapanasati,
Those practitioners that did the Anapanasati retreat, Satipatthana retreat.
Por quê? Porque a pessoa aprendeu a
Why?
concentrar a mente
Because we learned how to concentrate our mind in the process of the breath.
mantendo a atenção nas três fases do surgimento, entrada e permanência.
Paying attention to the three phases of arising, entering, and remaining.
Surgimento, entrada e permanência.
Arising, entering, and remaining.
Se a gente concentrar, percebendo o
If we
surgimento,
concentrate, recognizing the arising, entering, and remaining,
concentração sobre a respiração, ela interrompe o
this
fluxo.
concentration on breath interrupts.
Então, mantendo a atenção nas três fases de surgimento, entrada e
So paying
permanência,
attention to the three phases of arising, entering, and remaining, but without thinking of anything,
simplesmente
simply
pousando a sua
resting
atenção.
your attention.
Aí as outras experiências desaparecem. As outras experiências
Then
são
the other experiences disappear. Other experiences, which are demons, ghosts, evil spirits, pains, whatever afflictions, they disappear when we have a focus of the mind.
Enquanto você medita assim, pode parecer no início que há
Um,
pensamentos do que antes. Mas
as you meditate like this, it will seem at first as if you have even more thoughts than before. But by continuing to practice without judgment or concern, you will experience a sense of total calm and peace. When we're able to have an anchor to our mind, and we have a focus, then we have total calm and peace.
e tanto o corpo como a
And both body and mind will feel blissfully well.
acontecendo aqui. Eu não tenho
So
lucidez.
what is happening here? I don't have lucidity to deal with appearances yet, but I can interrupt the appearances that are dragging me to all places by means of this focused mind. And this is what we're doing. We're training this.
Essa prática ela não resolve.
This practice doesn't solve completely the problem, because when we interrupt this practice, then the ordinary things, they come back. But I'm taking this practice as a basis, so later,
tendo isso por base, desenvolver
having this practice as a basis, later I can develop the lucidity that will be able to deal with any appearance and recognize the ultimate aspect. Right now, I don't have the recognition of the ultimate aspect, but I do what I can. That means I'm not following the ordinary aspects. And in order not to follow the ordinary aspects, I have an anchor, I have a referential on which
olhar aquilo e não olhar o resto,
I
eu me livro do resto. E além do mais,
focus
quebra, eu descubro que o
my attention or my eyes
eu
looking
consigo
at anything else. And then the other things don't have the power over
eu
us.
termino vendo
If I'm able to have some kind of an anchor, I'm able to recognize whatever appears as demons, ghosts, and evil spirits that have no substantiality
que eu veja e do
of
poder.
our mind. They depend on my seeing them and giving them power. So this is a preliminary practice. It's an initial practice, but it's very powerful. It really helps us.
Quando você puder ficar assim, unifocado, com sua mente
And you can
livre,
remain one-pointedly like this, with your mind free from thoughts and absorbed so completely.
são esse conjunto de palavras. Mas essa
Here, so we have these words, but these words do not substitute, they are not a substitute for the practice. We have to transform these words into the shamatha practice. It's a skill.
unifocado, com sua mente livre de pensamentos,
One-pointedly like this, with your mind free from thoughts and absorbed so
não
completely
desejasse.
that it's as if you can't or don't wish to leave this state of meditation.
Então acontece isso.
So it happens. So we're meditating and then we think, wow, this is really good.
Aí vocês percebem a estabilidade.
And then we recognize the
Vocês conseguem deixar
stability and we're able to broaden this stability. Things can dance around us and we are not following them. And within this, we feel very well, very good.
se surgir alguma dor no corpo,
If
você volta em
any
foco,
pain arises,
concentração.
just
E a dor ela perde o poder.
turn the focus to your concentration and then the pain will lose power.
Isso é também alguma coisa que pode trazer problemas. Uma vez eu fiz um retiro.
This is also something that can create some problems. Once I did a retreat and I used this practice, but I forced too much, and then I developed some knee problems for 1 year. I used to do like full lotus and forced too much, and then I got really hurt.
Como Tokuda-san me disse depois,
Like Tokuda-san said to me later on,
não do excesso de prática, mas da falta de prática.
the pain in your knee comes not from an excess of practice, but from a lack of practice. I thought he was going to say, oh, you are enlightened. This is a sign of enlightenment. But he said, no, if you do an excess of practice and then you stop practicing, then that's what happens. So he called me a bad practitioner. The master see everything.
Então, quando você você puder ficar assim, unifocado com sua mente,
So when you can remain one-pointedly like this, with your mind free from thoughts and observe so completely that it's as if you can't or don't wish to leave this state of meditation, then that is a sign you have arrived at familiarity with calm abiding, shamatha.
uma prática desse calmo repousar, shamatha.
So you arrived at a practice of this calm abiding, shamatha.
Aqui a gente poderia dizer que isso está próximo do primeiro jhana, que é a
Here we
felicidade.
could say that this is close to the first jhana, which is happiness and bliss through detachment.
Ou seja, das 8
So there's a detachment regarding the 8 consciousnesses, and then I feel happiness and bliss.
Esse é o primeiro estágio dos deuses.
This is the first stage of the form gods, beyond the desired gods.
Porque nós estamos nesse estado
And this is exactly it, because we are in this state of balance with detachment,
de tratamento das experiências de olhos, ouvidos,
detachment from the experiences of the sense organs and mind.
e eu tenho uma sensação de felicidade.
And then we have a feeling of happiness and bliss, and we take this feeling of happiness and bliss and detachment as an anchor. And then I have the tendency that I don't want to leave this. So those who penetrate this, usually they think, I'm sitting here and I'm not gonna get out of here. Nobody will take me out from here or just stay here forever.
Adeus, mundo cruel.
Goodbye,
Adeus,
evil world.
futebol.
Goodbye, World Championship.
Eu acho bom ir até esse ponto, onde a
Yeah,
pessoa vê a
to go until this point in which we see this happiness and stability.
vocês pararem de respirar, parece que não tem problema nenhum.
If you stop breathing, it looks like you have there's no problem. You don't feel any kind of affliction, nothing.
Não, se você puder ficar assim, unifocado, com sua mente livre de
When you can remain one-pointedly like this, with your mind free from thoughts and absorbed so completely that it's as if you can't or don't wish to leave this state of meditation, then that is a sign that you have arrived at familiarity with calm abiding. So this first stage is complete. We achieved the result and then it's okay. We don't need anything else. It's as if we had reached the first jhana.
Aí vem a parte principal,
And then there's the main part,
da sabedoria vipassana.
generating the wisdom of Vipassana.
Como que a partir desse estado,
So how,
nada,
based on this stillness, how does Rigpa arise? How does another action of mind that has nothing to do with the sense organs or mind or identity or the bubbles of reality, how does this completely different operation of the mind arise? And then the John Rinpoche explains. And we're going to stop here today.
às
in the morning, and we will come back at 3 o'clock. And if you have any questions,
A Bela,
Bella,
pode falar, Bela. Ver se vai funcionar agora.
let's see if the sound's gonna work.
Bom dia.
Hi, Lama, good morning.
Eu tenho uma dúvida da prática no cotidiano mesmo, dessa.
My question has to do with practice in the daily life and the demons and ghosts. So when I was in retreat, one of the first advices that Luis Felipe gave me was that retreat is whatever appears and not the idea of retreat that we have. And this was very important for me because I was like welcoming whatever appeared. So now in this retreat that we're doing, I'm trying it, but everything is going wrong. So there were like intense rains. My mother broke her feet, and so many things happened. And I'm trying to contemplate this because this is what is manifesting. So there is an identity that wants to be in the retreat, and this identity has the same substantiality as the identity that wants to take care of the mother. There's no difference. My question is, by doing this, am I actually doing a practice? Or is this only a skill of samsara, of adapting to whatever appears?
Por exemplo, quando nós nos movimentamos,
The difference is, for example, when we're moving within samsara with wisdom and lucidity, this is the stage of fruition.
nós estamos numa mandala.
And in this state of fruition, we are in a mandala. We are in the mandala of the primordial Buddha. And then whatever actions that we do, they don't arise from a bubble of reality. They are not connected to the usual aspects of samsara, but they are already liberated in themselves. And what does it mean? So, for example, we're looking at the imagery of the 6 triangles and the cube. So if we look at it and we see the cubes as such and the triangles as such, it's as if we were still stuck within the notion of the bubble. But if we look at the imagery and we see the different things, the triangles, the cubes, but we recognize them as a natural and luminous manifestation of this nature of mind that is free, then we have a wondrous notion of the nature of appearances as being inseparable from the luminous aspect of the mind. So we need to check where is our refuge, if we're taking refuge in this nature that is free, or if we're taking refuge, if we have conditioned aspirations within samsara. When we have conditioned aspirations, it's natural that you want your mother to heal and that everything is fine. But when you look at it, you should recognize this as that there is a luminous nature of your mind that is producing these realities, and you have no control over this. And you're also liberated from this. So you manifest it, but you're free from this. Liberation includes the various causal movements and emotions can be produced, but when they are produced, we are within this vast mandala and not in samsara. So these actions, they will not enhance any of the realms, like the God realms, the human realms, or animal realms. These actions don't reinforce or enhance any of them, but they have this ultimate aspect that is self-liberated. But this ultimate aspect that is self-liberated, it's not a state of mind that
a compreensão luminosa dos
blocks the usual action. It doesn't block anything.
Então, o que vai
The
decidir
luminous complete
da mente é a
ordinary aspects is enlightenment. So what will make the difference is the basis of the mind, not the focus of the mind. If the basis of the mind and the refuge of the mind are stabilized within this primordial aspect, the Mahaguru, this is our practice. This is the point. Thank you, Lama. I think it liberated something.
Agora tem uma pergunta lá do
Now there's a question from Seb Bakari.
Lama, bom dia. Tá ouvindo bem?
Good morning, Lama.
Lama, eu queria fazer uma pergunta assim,
Lama,
mais no viés das preliminares.
I'd like to make a question more related to the preliminaries of.
Não entendi bem. Tu podia repetir o que tu falaste?
Could you please repeat what you said?
Eu vou perguntar sobre as preliminares.
My question has to do with the preliminaries, with about not understanding the Four Noble Truths.
E sobre as 4 nobres verdades, é isso?
As preliminares de
Yes,
não entender.
preliminaries, and when we don't understand the Four Noble Truths.
Aqui elas estão colocadas como as próprias 4 nobres verdades.
So here the preliminaries are the Four Noble Truths. So before this,
Os preliminares que vêm antes das 4 nobres verdades. é isso?
before the Four Noble Truths, the preliminaries that come before that, are they samsara, the preliminaries before the Four Noble Truths? Well, these preliminaries, they have to do with karma.
Ações de
So, for example, if I do actions of some kind,
em sofrimento.
I will have results that create suffering. If I do actions of another kind, then there will be results that create conditioned happiness. So it's better for me to be careful and to do actions that will have good results and to avoid negative actions. This is the general instruction of the preliminaries that come before the Four Noble Truths. I can also do the 5 vows. So I avoid killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, lying,
Tomar substâncias intoxicantes.
and taking intoxicants. I can also take the 10 vows. So I avoid killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, which are 3 vows of body. And then there are 4 of speech. I avoid aggressive speech, avoid lying, avoid creating dispute between people, and avoid useless chatter. And there are the 3 of mind. I avoid anchoring in limited places, for example, taking refuge in bubbles and identities.
De acumulação,
I avoid actions of accumulation,
carência,
for example, this feeling of neediness,
de avareza,
and also avarice, greed and envy. And I avoid anger, fear, hatred. These are the 3 aspects of mind represented by the 3
Mas eu não tô-
animals. So I avoid it. But when I'm doing it, I'm not yet understanding the first noble truth of suffering, and neither the second, third, and fourth, which is the path. But I'm effectively practicing
dizem respeito ao karma,
based on instructions that have to do with karma.
ações kármicas negativas,
Because if I do negative karmic actions, I'm gonna get
evitar
stuck in things that will result in problems. And if I avoid nurturing negative karmic conditions, I'm gonna liberate myself from this.
E aí, Lama, queria fazer uma outra pergunta sobre a prática de
I have another question about deity practice. I genuinely feel that
Então, com a prática de
it happens. I have a connection with daily practice.
Tara.
So, for example, Tara practice.
Eu vou fazer a prática
So I
de
have
Tara.
a red body,
É o corpo de Tara, genuinamente.
and then I do the practice, and the body is the body of Tara, as well as the speech and the mind, and then we accumulate it.
Só que aí, como é que pode? Assim, a pergunta é: isso é genuíno de verdade? Ou eu tô
And
fazendo.
then my question is this really genuine, or is it just a play, a part that I'm playing? Because in the heart, I feel that it's happening, but and also in my view, I feel that it's happening.
Parece que, por mais que isso surja, a gente
But
tem
it looks that even though it manifests in this way,
e que parece genuíno,
and even though it looks genuine,
a quarta norma de verdade está aqui ainda.
I still don't understand the Four Noble Truths. And then I don't know if I'm just faking it, the practice.
Não. Vamos supor que tu esteja fazendo a prática de Tara.
So let's imagine that you're doing the practice of Tara.
A tendência a causar
If the practice is operating, the tendency of creating harm to other beings through karmic tendencies will
a mente de
naturally
Tara, ela
disappear,
não vai causar sofrimento aos outros seres.
because the mind of Tara doesn't cause suffering to other beings. Tara is there to
prática
help other beings.
Vendo? Então,
If this practice is actually
a
taking
aspiração de
place, then
liberar os outros
the aspiration to liberate other beings is present, and this is the central point. So by looking through the practice of Tara, we don't have
por exemplo, a
impulses
pessoa não
connected with the human realm. So
no especial.
we don't want to, we're not aspiring to be glorified or to feel special. And
Buscando
we're
algum
also
domínio.
not in the demigod, like looking for control over human beings. And we're also not in the God realms, simply feeling a satisfaction that arises from appearances. We're also not in the animal realm as someone with impulses related to animals. And we're also not in the hungry ghosts realm
E uma
because
sensação por falta.
we don't have a needness and a feeling of absence. And we're also not in the hell realm.
Pode olhar
Uh,
situações todas como situações muito
we
aflitivas.
can look at others as enemies and look at the situations as very afflictive. We're not looking at them as enemies. And we're also not feeling that it's impossible to escape from hell, which is the most profound hell. So when we have the view of Tara, we have this clear notion of non-duality
Primordial em
and
todas as
the presence of the primordial aspect in all appearances. So when we recognize the primordial aspect of appearances,
reinos se liberam.
appearances of any of the six realms are liberated. And then in this way, Aryatara is the fast savior, the quick savior, because she brings the primordial aspect in any experience of any realm, not just in the desire realm, but also in the three worlds. So that's it. But eventually, we're doing a practice in which we don't have this complete realization, but it has some kind of benefit. But if we simply follow the exact words of the practice of Tara, we will be able to recognize if it's actually happening. We can follow the text and check
As outras pessoas.
if we're, genuine, like reciting the sadhana and feeling it, that I'm searching for enlightenment to attain temporary and definitive happiness for myself and other beings. And then in this way, I take refuge in Aratara,
Claro,
the purification of the awakening state. We can check if we have this clear in us, and if we're taking this refuge in the awakened state, we can look at and we can check when we do the practice. We should look inwardly
mas eu diria
and try to recognize this.
que essa compreensão, né? Então,
But
agora,
I would say that in the practice of Tara, we already have this recognition that we and other beings were lost in the ocean of samsara. So on some level, the understanding of the first noble truth is present. We have to check if we see ourselves in this way, like right now, while myself and so many other beings here in the human realm, we aspire for some things, we're not able to get them, etc. I hope Ayatara can help me, and etc.
isso significa que nós estamos dentro do reino.
If we have this kind of ordinary aspirations, it means that we are within the human realm, aspiring for things and wanting Tara to help us with these ordinary conditioned things.
Todo mundo
For
faz
example, now all the teams that go into the field, they pray or they ask for things. Right now, the gods are kind of overwhelmed by all of these requests, but this is not going to work. So this means that we are immersed in the desire realms.
e a gente está usando Aryatara não como
And we're using Aryatara not as the pure awakened state, but we're looking at Aryatara as an instrument to obtain the desires that I have.
então essa é a forma onde parece que nós estamos fazendo a
So this is when it looks like that we're doing the practice, but we have this obstacle.
Então aqui eu descrevi a prática como é,
So here I described the practice as it is and as it can arise as a state. And I also described that if we are actually understanding it, then the first noble truth is clear. The notion of Dorje Trollo is also clear, because Dorje Trollo is the pure awakened state of mind. We're not doing any practice to obtain results in samsara.
mais rica, ficar
If we want to get richer, to enter university, to be recognized,
casar, ser feliz no meio do mundo,
or to get married and be happy in the world. The practice of Tara is not the point, or any other practice.
as várias práticas que conduzem ao
The
resultado,
different practices that create a favorable result within the human realm are practices of creating merit and not creating bad karma. So, for example, if we want to work better within samsara, then we can generate merit.
fazer coisas boas para os outros,
We offer good things to others. We become an instrument within samsara for the object of other beings. And then it works in this way. So our path within samsara is to make offerings for beings. Conditioned offerings for conditioned beings.
estabelece.
And then the karmic conditions are established.
E essas conexões kármicas se estabelecendo, elas se
These
estabelecem
karmic
dentro do próprio
conditions
samsara,
are established. They're established within samsara itself.
transitórias,
And they also create situations that are transitory,
anteriormente, né?
as Buddha explains.
Melhor a gente gerar boas conexões
But,
samsara do que
Of course, it's better to have better connections in
ter
samsara
mais méritos,
than having
mais condições
bad connections. If we have more merits,
se praticar a
we have
liberação.
more conditions, lucidity, and to practice
É porque eu entendi, Lama.
liberation.
O ponto também é assim.
Okay, I understood, Lama, but the point is
quanto
Doing the
na
deity practice like Tara, for example, and
Aham.
when I'm following the light of primordial wisdom, for example,
sinto que acontece, sabe?
I genuinely feel that it happens,
Então,
but I also feel that the opposite happens. It looks like I don't have yet maturity about the Four Noble Truths.
Então, aí segue praticando e vendo isso, né?
So keep on practicing and observing,
Vai purificando a motivação.
and then you purify your motivation.
O samsara não tem solução.
There is no solution in samsara. This is not a curse of the Buddha.
Se tu olhar em volta, tu vai ver que samsara
It's
não tem
just that
solução.
if you look around, you will see that samsara, it has no solution. No solution.
Tu
You
mesmo naqueles lugares.
should look at other beings
Por exemplo, tu pode olhar
and people
as pessoas famosas.
being yourself in a different place. For
Elas casam,
example,
depois casam,
people have
depois casam, depois
problems.
casam, depois casam.
Get
Mas elas sendo
married, they get divorced, they get married, they get divorced. But when, what is it when they're famous? Couldn't they simply be happy? So if you observe this,
ouve totalmente para isso. Tá?
being famous and rich doesn't solve anything.
Isso significa mais ou menos olhar para elas e entender como uma experiência que é parecida com a nossa própria experiência.
Then, and we can recognize an experience that is similar to our own experience.
Nossa própria.
We look at the experience of others as if it were our own, and then we learn by looking at the experience of others.
Então, o reino dos deuses, ele não resolve totalmente.
So the God realm doesn't solve completely.
As pessoas que têm muitos recursos, elas
I have
na hora
seen that people who have lots of resources and riches, when they divorce, they have to divide things that are too big. And poor people divide things that are smaller, and those who have nothing, they don't have to divide anything. But usually people in all of these places, they get together and they separate. And then we can ask, but why does it happen? How does it happen? What is this? How does it work?
religiosa, né?
It doesn't depend on religious tradition. It doesn't depend on country.
Tem muitos exemplos.
I'm taking this example, but there are many examples.
Relações entre pessoas, né?
Not only about relationships between people, but samsara is so vast.
Aí o Buda dá
And we
muito
look at samsara and we see, and Buddha gives many examples.
de contemplar o reino dos animais, vai
We
olhando.
can contemplate the animal realm and etc.
A gente pode, por exemplo, olhar o mundo ao redor
We can, for example, regard the world around us, observing whether the beings are driven by the three animals or not. And then we find out that they are actually being driven by the three animals.
eles passam por experiências boas. A
We
gente
can
encontra
observe
que
and wonder if they have good experiences, and then we see that they have good experiences, and then we can observe, are these good experiences fixed? Are they forever? And then we see that they are not fixed. And then we don't create an expectation regarding these experiences. So we observe all the different aspects of the wheel of life attentively. These aspects of the wheel of life are also preliminary teachings. So when I understand the wheel of life completely, there is the first noble truth, the second noble truth. And then you can find many examples.
o lugar onde a pessoa está é ali
The
que ela
place where we are, this is where we suffer. It doesn't matter what place it is. If we are in the God realms, then we suffer in the God realms. If we are in the hells, we're suffering in the hells. Every place has impermanence and the corresponding difficulties.
está dentro da roda da
And
vida.
we contemplate this is within the will of life.
Quando a gente vê que essas construções são artificiais,
When we recognize that these constructions are artificial and that we don't have to follow these artificial constructions, that we can do other things, then that's where the path begins.
Obrigado, Lama.
Thank you, Lama.
Rúbia, por favor.
Rubia, please. Hi, Lama.
Você tá me
Sim,
ouvindo?
Rúbia.
Can you
Pode
hear
falar.
me? Yes.
Bom
Good
dia.
morning. Are you in a hospital?
Não, tô em Canelinha com mamãe.
Tem Canelinha.
No, I'm in Canelinha with my mom.
De hospital, e é mesmo, uma
It's
cama de hospital.
because it looks like a hospital bed, and it is actually a hospital bed. Yeah, it's a hospital bed.
Não, tá bem.
Um ano
Isso é
e
uma boa
meio.
cama.
My mom is here, yeah.
Nós passamos um aperto, Lama.
É.
We
nós
had such a difficulty, Lama. We had such a difficulty here because there have been so many rains here in my state. We have been very heavy rains. We have been having heavy rains. And my mother had fever during this, very high fever, and the doctor couldn't come to the hospital because everything was blocked. I think it was on Wednesday and Thursday.
E eu
And she
mediquei
had just a lot of fever, and I gave them medicine and I was able to have access to the public system of health. It's cutting a little bit the sound. It's not clear. She's describing her mother's situation. Yesterday, I talked to the doctor and she said that it would take like 72 hours for the medicines to have an effect. And other symptoms were getting better, but the fever wasn't subsiding. And we had to wait for like 72 hours. And here nothing was coming, like no ambulance, nothing. And then I remembered Lama.
Aí você começou a falar sobre a obsolescência das coisas,
I
lembra?
remember once you were talking about the obsolescence of things, how things become obsolete, how things were in the past and how they become obsolete. And then suddenly I remembered of my father. He had a thermometer, an old kind of thermometer that had mercury inside.
Uma vez e ele ficava procurando.
Once that thermometer broke and he was looking for that ball of mercury in the room because it was very dangerous. And I'm using the thermometer in myself. And I had a fever that was higher than my mother's. And it was so horrible when the thermometer broke. And we were going through all the difficult situations because of the thermometer. And then I saw Dorjadrolo and the thermometer and I thought, that's it.
Então, tua mãe não está com febre.
So your mother has no fever? No.
Não, passando mal tanto de remédio que eu dei que baixa demais a temperatura.
No, I gave her so many medicines and they lowered everything, her blood pressure, etc. But she has no fever.
Dia que é termômetro digital.
And now, yeah, we're now using a digital thermometer, but it doesn't work.
Mas parece, enquanto você está vivendo aqui, aquilo. Ontem já tinha baixado a água,
While you are going through that,
já conseguia sair daqui. E aí aquela febre também desmanchou, assim.
eventually it began to dissolve, and I was looking at it and wondering and thinking, yeah, that's it. This is the teaching, the meaning of the teaching.
Uma vez eu tive uma coisa dessa também. A minha
Yeah,
primeira
once I had a situation like this. My
Yeah.
first daughter, she was having like a very high fever, 41 degrees. And then I called the doctor and I said, well, the fever is just going higher. I think I'm gonna go to the hospital. Then I looked at her and she was fine. She was just playing. So yeah. So I changed the thermometer and I realized that it was actually the thermometer the problem.
Que bom, hein?
Mas foi assim. Eu fiquei pensando quando o senhor falou ontem sobre.
But I was thinking about what you said yesterday about the inner Lama. It's as if it were this capacity of having lucidity in a difficult moment.
Porque o sistema nervoso pega a gente.
Because our nervous system gets us.
A gente tem uma noção de que nós estamos enganados.
Sometimes we have a notion that we are mistaken, but all that we can see is the mistake. And we know that we are mistaken. This is not exactly like this, but we can't recognize it precisely.
E se a gente conseguir atravessar isso, é
If
como
we are able to break through this, it's as if all this fabric was a mistake,
não tinha como sair.
because we were completely blocked because of the rain. We couldn't. Yeah, but this is an aspect of samsara, because we are looking at everything through the lenses of life and death. We're not beyond life and death. Yeah, even if the thermometer was right,
A gente vai
would it still be a mistake? Yes, we're walking backwards, and then we look at things from a broader perspective. But what is really safe is the ultimate aspect.
Do que o senhor estava falando lá no Abirate.
It was a memory of what you said in Abhirati. I heard your speech in Abhirati a few days ago,
E aí, de repente, o senhor soltou assim uma
and
meia
then
sonho bem
suddenly you talked about like the mind, the dream,
dos lugares das cinzas, do Buda Amitabha. Mas desse
about the axis of Amitabha Buddha, and that we can dream to have this kind of, to be careful. Do you remember this dream? No, I don't remember it.
Foi tão gentil assim, eu fiquei
It was
pensando.
so nice.
A gente precisa voltar a sonhar.
When you come back here, I think we should dream again. Go back to dreaming the dreams of the Pure Land.
Precisa voltar a sonhar.
These are dreams that we have to rekindle.
Então eu fiquei pensando assim que é isso, se é isso que é quando
So I was wondering, like, is this what it means by Dorje Trollo conquering the demons?
percepção, isso
Here, I think your perception is Dorje Trollo conquering the demons, but if you change from the thermometer to a thermometer that gives you a better reading, this is a transmigration. If you're just using a better thermometer, you're transmigrating from a world of suffering to another world of suffering. So there is a kind of freedom, but you're still in samsara. But Dorje Trollo overcomes everything. It's beyond everything. When we contemplate that our nature is non-dual and it's beyond life and death, and your mother has no age, this is Dorje Trollo. door de Trollo really saves.
E que o sol abre depois, por mais que
And the sun comes afterwards.
viva a situação,
Even though we have like these heavy rains and all these difficulties, the sun will eventually come back, will shine again. The waters will get dry and everything will be fine.
É bonito.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
de alguma maneira foi importante naquele momento conseguir lembrar.
Somehow it was important in that moment to remember this because
No primeiro dia do retiro eu não lembrei que tinha retiro.
in the first day of retreat, I didn't remember that there was a retreat.
Tá fazendo
Só fui
muita
conseguir
prática aí.
We're doing a lot of practices over there,
Só consegui me
but
lembrar.
I couldn't
Aí
remember.
eu consegui me lembrar quando a médica falou, não, você não tem
But
nada.
yesterday, when the doctor said there's nothing to do, you're going to have to wait 72 hours. The fever can take 72 hours to subside. And when she said it, and she said, yeah, you're going to have to be patient.
Eu lembrei
And then I remembered
que o Lama
that the
estava
retreat was going on alone.
dito e feito. Obsolescência programada.
Grant obsolescence.
Gratidão, Lama.
Thank you, Lama.
Vai ter 2 termômetros sempre.
Carolina is here saying that we should have 2 thermometers always.
Eu procurei o primeiro que eu procurei.
Oh, but I looked for another one here with my neighbors, but the first one that I got didn't work, and then the second one wasn't turning on, and then, you know, it just gave
Encosta a tua
up.
testa na.
Last case scenario, just touch your
Ela com febre, mas aí
face to her
aquilo
face.
porque você não pode dar remédio demais.
So in the first day, she had a lot of fever, but I couldn't give her too much medication because otherwise it would go very low.
Consegui relaxar e ligar o Zoom.
So then I was able to relax and to recognize that this was a demon in my mind, that I needed to have control over my nervous system. I think this is the most important thing that we should have. We should have control
Mental.
of our mental state.
Aí a gente consegue respirar.
Then we can breathe
Lembrar do ensinamento.
and remember the teachings.
Eu acho que isso que é o ultrapassar o caminho do ouvinte é
I think this being able to overcome the path of the listeners to be able to remember the teaching. This is the inner Lama,
porque o lama interno é justamente lembrar do lama, lembrar
because the inner Lama is just to remember the Lama, remember the teaching.
E aí aquela fala do senhor lá no Abirate foi muito
So what you
gentil.
said in Abirachi was very, very nice.
Enfim, o
Yeah,
Abirate.
that's what they asked, to have this pure land and dream.
Buda Kshobya foi esse.
So Abirachi is the pure land of Akshobhya Buddha.
Espero que a gente possa encontrar de novo em breve e voltar.
I hope we can meet again soon and we can get together here in Canarinha,
Sem nenhum apego.
in this world with this body. Okay, thank you, Rupubia.
Aí tem. Eu vou passar para as perguntas que estão aqui. Depois a gente volta aqui. Agora,
I'm gonna, Nízia, please.
Obrigada.
Good morning, Lama, thank you.
Precisando de uma orientação, uma inspiração.
I'd like guidance and inspiration
Com a questão da causalidade.
regarding the wisdom of causality.
Me sentido assim muito confusa.
I have been feeling very confused with a lot of demands on myself. I have been
Na consciência assim de que o que a gente faz gera resultado e o que a gente não faz também.
Aware that what we do has a result and also what we don't do has a result. This is very strong in me right now. I have both when I have been writing reports and I feel very much responsible by the way I write, and I would also like some help from someone who's already on the path with more lucidity than I have today. I'm feeling very responsible for this in my relationship with the families, and also very afraid of doing a mistake and not do something that I should do, something beneficial that
Tanto por
I
lado,
should do.
emocionalmente com
So I'm emotionally moved by all of this, and I'm feeling all this responsibility that is on me right now. Yeah.
Bom, eu não sei a situação objetiva assim.
Well, I'm not aware of the objective situation, but essentially, yeah, you look around.
Está todos os
I'd
seres
say that the first point is to make a list of all the beings that you're in contact with, and then you practice metabhavana. So you aspire that they are happy, that they overcome suffering, that they find the true causes of happiness, and etc. So you practice metabhavana for them. And the problems that are happening karmically, they will reveal themselves. Because if there are some beings with which you cannot practice metabhavana, then you will recognize that there's a difficulty, and then you're going to find the roots of the obstacles that are manifesting. So metabhavana works as a diagnosis because you're very quickly going to recognize. And if you keep on practicing metabhavana, you're gonna overcome it to the point that you're gonna be able to actually aspire for the benefit of all of these beings. And when you're able to do this, your movement within the world will be of such a kind that you will create merit and will not create bad karma. Even in situations of conflict that cannot be solved, still you keep on practicing metabhavana, and then you will transcend the conflict, maintaining this aspiration for all beings and understanding that all beings have Buddha nature. This is a result of the metabhavana practice because you're able to see that the beings can construct the reality, so they have Buddha nature. If you don't trust it, you can observe the spiders. So they create their nets, they create their worlds, the ants create their worlds, the birds create their nests and their worlds. All beings create realities. And these realities, they encounter each other. They are intertwined. The predators encounter the prey. The world of the predator is not the world of the prey, but they are worlds that are interconnected. And the whole universe is like this. And then you also forgive beings for manifesting in a limited way. Understanding that their nature is not the appearance. Their nature is luminous and it creates the worlds. So you relate with their luminous nature and you aspire that they be free from their limitations. And then you will also gradually understand the worlds that you are inhabiting are worlds that are opposing each other. Maybe for your benefit, they harm others, or for the benefit of others, they harm you. So these are worlds that have this contradiction. So you need to generate a view that is more vast. very commonly, people who harm us today have been close to us in the past. Because we are centered in our own worlds, and sometimes they are superposed, and sometimes they create conflict. They have conflicts between themselves. So usually we don't have a control over, even with people who are very close to us, we don't have this kind of control. These things happen. And then we just keep on doing it. But it is not appropriate to fall into realms of hostility. So that's why we do metabhavana.
Mais aflitivas que acontecem, elas estão ligadas
I
às
think the most afflictive things that happen have to do with relations between people. We have many deceptions, frustrations, and this is a direct example of what Buddha describes. The ground God produces suffering. It produces a referential of happiness that later on manifests as suffering.
todas, a gente vai ter aquele
It's
referencial
a
aqui.
referential based on which we evaluate all different realities, and then it produces the corresponding suffering. This is very common and very afflictive.
Muitíssimo grata.
Thank you so much.
Me sentindo muito motivada.
I'm feeling very motivated to do something that creates benefit.
Soltar pouquinho.
Maybe I should let go of the view of what I think should be.
É como se às vezes eu olho para.
It's as if sometimes I look at the relationships and what is happening, and I feel motivated to do something.
E internamente eu.
And inwardly, some people say, no, you shouldn't interfere. You shouldn't do anything about this, just observe. For me, it's difficult to let go. At the subtle level, you can keep it, but on the gross level, maybe people are right, maybe you shouldn't do anything. But in the subtle level, you maintain it, you maintain this positive view, this you keep this subtle view, and then things on the gross level will improve. If you can keep this subtle aspect clear, then you yourself at least will get liberated from the suffering. Okay, thank you, Nizam. Good luck. Life is not easy. So there's a question here in the temple.
Lama, eu queria muito conselho.
Sim.
Lama, I'd like an advice. I've been in the path for a very short time. I understand a bit that samsara and the bubbles, they have no meaning and that they have no final solution. I've chosen to abandon some specific bubbles, and I've chosen to remain in some bubbles. I mean, it's not really a choice. In some bubbles we need to be, but in a very specific bubble, which is very tight, I'm in it right now. I always get out and I remain in silence and I meditate. And then eventually something that I don't know happens. And after a while, I begin to run after objectives of samsara and get completely lost. And it happens over and over again. And then I end up very tired, exhausted, without energy. And only when I'm feeling like this so bad that I realize what I've done and then I go back to the practice. So this has happened many times. I feel that I cannot evolve, progress from this. So I'd like an advice. I think you'd better not think that there is a correct or right way of doing things, because in samsara there isn't a correct way.
Do excesso de trabalho.
So the way in which you liberate from your excess of work is by recognizing this aspect of the mind that is free. You recognize that you can construct things in one way or another, but in whatever way you construct them, you're always going to find an obstacle. So when you are moving in the world, you always make the vow that whatever you do is beneficial for beings.
Pessoa que tu então não está fazendo, não vai
And
ser.
there will always, if you. But for example, if you destroy your capacity of movement because you're overwhelmed, this is not good. So you need to find a balance, which actually doesn't exist, because it's a balance within the world, and within the world there is no balance. You organize yourself to do certain things, but other things will always show up, and then you're again overwhelmed. Try to always recognize that your nature that is free is intact. It hasn't been affected. And in what you do, try to avoid ordinary things. Try to progress towards a genuine motivation of creating benefit for beings. And then in a subtle level, you're going to be sustained by the energy of the world. And then you feel this energy, because if it's actually there, it appears. The Buddhas are called exalted. And I think that's because of it, because their energy doesn't come from a causal aspect. It's like that energy that sustains the mothers, like they go day and night taking care of the kids. It's something that is not actually, it doesn't actually come from the world. It's an extraordinary energy. So it happens. And this motivation is established and the energy appears, life also appears. So it has a direction. So I hope you're doing good things and benefiting people, and that this is a thing. Good luck. Yeah, be careful.
Eu ia dizer, carioca não ia passar por isso. Assim.
I was going to say that someone from Rio de Janeiro wouldn't go through this. But yeah, I'm not going to say anything. Please. Hello, Lama. I don't know if we still have time. Yeah, I think we do. Since I've been listening to these instructions of Shamatha, I always remember a situation that lived many years ago when I had a car accident. And then, yeah, we train in meditation, but I think there are some situations in life, there are limit situations or near death. You feel that you are
nessa situação
in a
específica.
suspense. All the senses shut down, everything gets
E
blank,
naquela
but there
época
is a
onde isso aconteceu, esse acidente, eu
lucidity
não tinha nenhum conhecimento.
there. By that time, I had no knowledge about Buddhism, but it called my attention because I was completely lucid, even though
Nariz, língua, tato. E então eu queria saber, assim, Lama, se...
So I wanted to know if, for example, when we are in a limit situation that may represent the end of life, for example, if there is an intelligence that
Essa lucidez, no caso,
takes us to this perception, to this lucidity, and how can we use this
sei lá, ir para
in
uma
order to use this moment to achieve liberation or to go to a pure land? Because at that time I had absolutely no training in Buddhism. I didn't meditate, but it was very clear to me that whatever happened a few seconds later, that this lucidity was very vivid. Yeah, this is a more complicated answer. I'm gonna talk about this later. This is a very good question. Thank you.
Tu
Yeah,
provavelmente tens práticas de outro.
just to comment a little bit, probably there are practices from other lives. Is manifested in that moment, those practices. So we're gonna do the dedication.
Expandam e toquem a todos, que o Mestre Universal da Paz e da Compaixão, Sua Santidade Dalai Lama, juntamente com todos os mestres de todas as tradições que veiculam essa mensagem, tenham longa vida, que todos estejam a salvo de gerar pensamentos negativos, o obstáculo mais destrutivo, que esses pensamentos nunca surjam em nossa mente, e que todos os seres também estejam livres de pensamentos negativos. Quem lome chosun, ring lonche, sasun chapar peldrogyo chosun, wadan medra dosun gelencho. Tchau, então, pessoal. Até.
Bye, everyone. See you in the afternoon.
Prática aí.
Tchau, Lama.
Good
Tchau,
practices.
Tchau.
Gratidão, Lama. Beijo para todos.